Mainly because of COVID, where everyone's housebound, you can't do anything, they're not spending their money, so they have money to burn that's burning in their pocket and low interest rates. So when you're spending time at home, you want your house more comfortable, you maybe want it bigger, and you haven't been spending your money, so you might as well get a bigger nest. So, and it's happening globally, which is an incredible phenomenon, because I remember this time last year, there was no indicators that would told anyone that the market would be the way it is now.
Greetings, and welcome back to the Rose Bros podcast. This episode, we are joined by real estate entrepreneur Trung Bien. Trung is an uncommon realtor both in his origins from an immigrant family and his success and longevity as a real estate investor. While studying entrepreneurship and innovation at the University of Calgary, Trung developed a passion for real estate and bought his first rental property in 2006. By 2010, Trung had acquired a $3.5 million portfolio of cash flow rental properties in Calgary and Edmonton. In 2012, Trung decided to pursue a professional career with Trickle Creek Custom Homes, where he went on to buy and sell approximately $9 million of inner-city residential lots. Since leaving Trickle Creek, Trung has continued to help people buy and sell their homes through his association with RE/MAX Real Estate and eXp Realty. Trung is also a 4-time recipient of the RE/MAX Chairman's Club Award. We sat down for a smooth cup of Rose Bros coffee and discussed learning the real estate business and Trung's experience nearly going bankrupt, why housing is booming, the best type of real estate investments, and advice on what not to do in real estate, both as a realtor and an investor. Enjoy! Also, this week's podcast was brought to you by A1 Web Development. Looking for a new website or e-commerce storefront? A1 can help launch your business online through Amazon, Shopify, Walmart, or eBay to access millions of new customers. Check out a1dev.ca today for more details on how you can grow your business. Yeah, let's start.
Sure.
Who does a real estate agent use to buy a house? You're a real estate agent, I guess, by trade. What happens when you go to buy a house? What do? Do you represent yourself?
When I was before I was licensed, I used my friend as a realtor.
Okay.
Did a good job, and I never saw myself becoming a realtor. I just chose to become a realtor more out of survival of providing for a family.
Right.
Now that I'm licensed, I do self-represent. Got to save on those commissions.
You do.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure.
To start from the beginning, for anyone who does listen to this, Trung Bien,
Correct.
you are a real estate agent. You're an entrepreneur. You have a large real estate portfolio. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as more of a real estate investor.
Okay.
That happens to be also a realtor. Most of the time I do real estate, transact in real estate, and then I use that and parlay that into real estate investments.
Was becoming a realtor a channel for your entrepreneurial?
I think it was a good vehicle for sure. I kind of dabbled in some things and I never really kind of got traction with it. Maybe it was passion or a level of interest, but I was always kind of interested in real estate since university.
How'd you end up in Calgary?
I was born and raised in Calgary, actually. My parents were refugees. My dad was a prisoner of war for 3 years. He lived in a hole as a prisoner, gets released, finds my mom again, and then they walk to Thailand with the machete. And then once they hit the Thailand border, they get refugee status. And then my oldest brother was born in a refugee camp.
Where'd they walk from?
Vietnam. With the machete, pretty much crawled through the jungle, and then someone would kind of spot and make sure the coast was clear, and then all the people in behind would just kind of crawl or walk forward.
During the 60s?
Yeah.
And why Canada? Why'd they come here? Why not US? Or
my dad did not want to emigrate to the United States. And then so when he was in the refugee camp, he was walking by and he saw a chalkboard that said, if you're part of this military regime or this division, we can get you immigration status through a church in New Brunswick.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. They crossed all the way over to New Brunswick first?
They got to New Brunswick. That's where they landed. My middle brother was born there. And then I'm not too sure how long they were there for, but after a couple of years, then they came to Calgary.
Went west.
Yeah. And then I was born in Calgary.
Cool.
Really good change of fortune being born in Canada for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very cold though.
Cold, low income, second language barriers, but they made it work. I give them a lot of credit for their adversity and tenacity.
Yeah. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
My parents were small business owners. They owned a couple convenience stores. So when I grew up, I was always taken to those convenience stores and just helping my mom out. So rather than paying for childcare, I just went to those convenience stores and just saw what my parents were doing. And then I just saw them as small business owners. And I thought that being an entrepreneur would be probably the direction I would want to go.
Teenager, kid?
I think it was probably grade 7. The teacher asks each student one by one what they want to do when they grow up. I don't really know the answer when it's close to my turn. And then out of nowhere, I say, entrepreneur. And then this teacher looks at me and he says, son, do your parents have a lot of money? And I said, no. And he's like, well, you probably need a lot of money if you want to be an entrepreneur.
That's bad advice.
Yeah. It was a little bit humorous. But since that one moment, I kind of just started saying that. I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur.
You go through high school. Did you have businesses then?
I did just kind of buy low, sell high kind of deal. Like if anything I can get my hands on. But I was passionate about remote control cars. Huh. And I knew a machinist that was making parts. So then he would make the parts and then I would sell them on eBay.
Oh, cool.
So that was kind of a good thing. But I was also into devil sticks. They're kind of like juggling instruments. And I used to kind of make those and kind of sell them in my junior high. So always kind of try to do like buy low, sell high kind of deal.
Trung Bien, is there French in there?
Yep. So my understanding is that Vietnam was partially colonized by the French, and that's how I got my last name, which is pretty unique for a Vietnamese person because most Vietnamese people, they have a lot of common last names, such as Tran, Nguyen, and Nguyen. Mm-hmm.
But I knew there's French in Vietnam, like the Vietnamese sub.
Yeah, totally, with the pate.
Yeah, delicious. And then you went to UC and did entrepreneurship at school.
Mm-hmm. I kind of just followed through on what I told myself when I was in grade 7 that I'm going to take business in high school. And I just did the 4-year program, Bachelor's of Commerce degree. Yeah. And the specialty was Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So help with like kind of business planning, strategy, kind of having that right mindset, understanding what it took to become an entrepreneur, risk taking. And that was it. It was a good 4-year program.
Always wanted to do real estate?
Kind of interesting was I remember reading a quote from Andrew Carnegie, and he said that 90% of all millionaires become so through the ownership of real estate. So I kind of remembered that, and that's how I kind of decided to kind of just pursue that vehicle.
I read his biography. It's a great story.
Really?
On a side note.
Yeah, good to know. He has a great story.
Yeah, entertaining. And it was a great book. Dave Nassau, for anyone that listened to this. So you're going through university. Did you know you're going to get into real estate?
What happened was I applied for the co-op internship program at the U of C, and I could not get a job. I couldn't even get interviews, couldn't really get a job. And Enterprise Rent-A-Car gave me a chance. They interviewed me, said you can be a management trainee. I was like, sure, let's give it a shot. And there was this person that rented cars on a weekly basis, and he just invested in cash flow rental properties on the part-time with his wife. And he worked IT as his day job, but he invested in rentals. And so I rented cars to him a couple times, and then he said he invested in real estate. And then when he said that, I asked him, would you like to go for a coffee? I'd like to pick your brain a little bit. Yeah. And he said, yeah, sure. So we went for lunch, and we just chatted a little bit. He saw that I had a lot of drive, good attitude, and he told me to take a weekend crash course in how to invest in real estate. Yeah. And he said, if I took that course, I'll consider buying a rental property with you. Huh. And so I took that course, and I was pretty much his lackey. Applied what I learned in the course on how to find rental properties, how to scan them, how to do the cash flow analysis, and found a property that him and his wife liked. They gave me a chance to invest, and I invested $6,500. And that was actually my student loan money and my bursary. That opened the door into real estate investing for me.
How old were you?
2006. So I think
20 something?
20, early 20s. So I bought a couple properties with that individual, and I still do business with them today.
And you kind of learned along the way. And
he mentored me in terms of how to be a landlord and how to manage rental properties with integrity. Make sure it was a well-presented product, keep it clean, how to manage your expenses, how to find the right tenants, how to do renovations. And he just kind of taught me what he knew. And he tried to replicate it with another mentee, and he couldn't do it. He tried to find other young people that he thought had drive to help him find rental properties and help him do a renovation and manage a property for him. and he just didn't have any luck with it. Yeah. So, because eventually I spread out and I just started doing my own thing. Yeah. But we still have a couple properties together, which is good.
Did you think about dropping out? What was the motivation to finish school at this point?
Actually, I realized that school is pretty stressful doing 5 courses a semester. So I did 4 courses a semester and then saw a better work-life balance. And I dropped it down to 3 courses a semester.
Yeah, you told me that,
Yeah. And then I just kind of spread my 4-year program over like maybe 6-7 years. And it was great. I found that I just kind of enjoyed my 20s a lot more, got a little bit more clarity on what I wanted to do with my life, and then was just a lot more happier.
What was it about real estate that you liked? Is it anything in particular?
I think it was deal flow. I find deals. Yeah. I find that it's exciting to kind of find an opportunity to do your due diligence on it and do the negotiating and to acquire the property. But once you acquire the property, you pretty much just bought a set of problems.
For sure.
So then, you have to kind of make it your own, do the tune up, find the tenants, manage the property. And I found that what I saw was the ability just to kind of create some cash flow and residual income, and which is what I really liked. Because one of the things I observed growing up was I didn't like trading hours for dollars.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to kind of do something entrepreneurial. You read a couple basic wealth books and they always talked about building multiple revenue streams.
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord with me.
Was it hard to buy something, increase the value, or get upside in equity? How common is that? Was it just a matter of elbow grease, or is it timing? Is it spotting opportunities?
I think it's a common strategy. It's called the BRRRR strategy. So it's like BRRRR. So B is the buy. Okay. So you want to look for good off-market opportunities. You want to find something that you can create that has some equity, some potential to increase the equity. Then you want to do the renovation, update it, make sure that it's up to standard. Then you want to find renters for it, increase the cash flow, refinance it, and then redo it all over again. So it's a common strategy. Yeah, but sometimes it can be hard to find that right opportunity where the house needs a lot of work and then you could buy it at a fair price.
Because it's kind of like a monopoly board, right? Everyone can look at the same monopoly board. There's no quote unquote innovation. Like, is it hard to find? Is it hard to do?
I think it can be hard to find, but sometimes what I find is harder is actually taking the risk and saying I'm going to do it with this one property at this price.
And that's what separates people.
Actually taking the risk and saying, yes, I'm going to do it. Because there's some properties where there's always risk. And sometimes it's like, oh, that seems too risky. And then some people would say, it's risky, but I'm going to do this one anyways. Yeah. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Right. And my success as a real estate investor hasn't been a clear trajectory. There's been some massive ups and downs, got into business with the wrong people, and almost nearly went bankrupt. But one thing that I understood was I only knew Calgary real estate. I never pivoted outside of real estate, like changing to different industries. So I kind of just stuck with it. And then it just kind of made me a better real estate investor. Because every time I had a setback, I realized, am I going to quit? Am I going to do something different? But I felt like I was too far along in what I knew that I just didn't want to kind of change to a different industry.
How'd you almost go bankrupt?
Being over-leveraged.
Okay.
Being over-leveraged and taking too much responsibility in terms of projects. Just kind of being a little bit over-leveraged, getting into business with some wrong people that didn't follow through on their word. And then I was left with the responsibility to maintain the properties, cover the tenants, and just kind of they just left me with like a mess.
Big
Mortgages, distressed properties, didn't say what they were going to do. And then I was just left with the bag to maintain the properties and kind of eventually sell them when I could.
How old were you then?
Probably late 20s. Ugh. Yeah, lots of stress.
But you did it.
But I did it, and I became a better real estate investor for sure.
You ever heard of Sam Zell?
Sam Zell? No, I haven't.
The billionaire. He was one of the guys who started the REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts.
I'm familiar with the REITs, but no. But not about Sam Zell.
He started kind of like you. I guess he just kept going bigger and bigger. Have you ever thought about growing and growing and growing?
I've talked to someone who owns multiple businesses, and what they said is one step at a time. One step at a time. Just increase your comfort zone just by a little bit, and just kind of grow slowly. And I talked to other people too, where they have maybe huge swings in their net worth. And I've talked to other people who are a little bit more conservative, and they said just kind of grow slowly, focus on capital preservation, and then you'll eventually get to a comfortable life.
Like raising money and all that.
Raising money, just taking on bigger projects, participating in bigger projects that could be different, such as like higher density projects, etc.
So what would you say to someone who's looking at Calgary real estate? Appreciation is in what, 10, 15% the last 10 years?
I don't know what it is over the last 10 years, but for detached homes for this year, it's been increased by 10%.
The Standard & Poor's Index 500 would be like 400% the last 10 years. What would you tell someone who's looking at putting their capital in the Calgary
real estate market? I would say focus on the long game, right? Because we have a lot of ebbs and flows in our consumer confidence, and consumer confidence can really fluctuate home prices. So I just focus on the long game and find a property that you can either live there for a long period of time or you can rent out and it'll cash flow. Because if it cash flows, then no matter what happens to the market, if it goes up or down, you should be able to survive and get through it.
I mean, you have to live somewhere, right?
You do have to live somewhere.
But the argument is that you could invest in something simple as the index fund and make more.
You can invest in the index fund and make more. You can invest in a REIT and have less responsibility, 100%. Because real estate is not set it and forget it. Constant maintenance. And if you don't put the time in to maintain your asset, it's gonna even lose more value. And then also when you sell the property too, real estate commissions are expensive. That can eat into your margins. And also, after owning it for 10 plus years, you might not have maintained it. You maintained it, you kept it going. But when you sell it, then it might need an update.
Yeah.
And like renovations aren't cheap. So you can put another 15, 20 grand into it just to kind of get it up to par to sell it. And that eats into your margins too. Right.
But you need somewhere to live.
And
you got to cover the hurdle rate of rent too, right?
Paying down your mortgage is kind of the sure thing.
Yeah.
Cash flow is the other added benefit, and equity appreciation is speculative.
Right.
It's just bonus if it does increase in value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in Vancouver.
Unless you're in Vancouver, Toronto, it seems like it's going up like Bitcoin.
Yeah. Can you imagine you bought Bitcoin 10 years ago?
Oh man, sometimes I wonder if I just bought Bitcoin like 3 years ago when it was like $5,000 a coin. It's all
Shiba?
It's Shiba. I heard someone invested, I think like $8,000 of Ethereum, and it's worth like 1.2 billion, which was absolutely ridiculous. Crazy gains. That's
unprecedented.
Yeah, it is. They called it one of the best trades of all time
ever.
Like to have that kind of increase of like $8,000 to $1 billion in a span of I think it was like 400 days. It's pretty wild.
I mean, it's gambling, but
total gambling.
One thought I've had, you just spread out 10 grand into the 3,000 cryptocurrencies that are out there.
Yeah, there's a dip right now in Bitcoin, so I'm kind of watching it to see. Right, but people are saying that it could be a bear market pretty soon here, so stay liquid. And for me, I invest in crypto, but I believe in kind of like holding it for a long-term period of time. Yeah. But I do believe in buying the dip and going long for sure.
Neither of us is Warren Buffett, but in your opinion, you see a lot of deals and you see a lot of people, meet a lot of people. So why is real estate so crazy right now?
I think it's kind of a global phenomenon where real estate markets have been kind of surging, mainly because of COVID, where everyone's housebound. You can't do anything. They're not spending their money. So they have money to burn that's burning their pocket and low interest rates. So when you're spending time at home, you want your house more comfortable. You maybe want it bigger. Yeah. Interest rates are low and you haven't been spending your money, so you might as well get a bigger nest. So, and it's happening globally, which is an incredible phenomenon. Because I remember this time last year, there was no indicators that would told anyone that the market would be the way it is now.
Yeah,
there was nothing. You couldn't even see it coming, which is unbelievable.
That's what I said. I said we should have bought this time last year.
Yeah. In the end, it was like, but last year you didn't know if you're catching a falling knife.
Yeah.
Because it just looked like it looked kind of stable and there was some activity, but we didn't expect the market to surge the way we did.
Low interest rates, people being at home.
Disposable income. Yeah, they weren't spending their money.
I think it's like 40% of all the US dollars are printed in the last year that are out there right now.
I'm not too sure about the money supply, but I heard that money's being printed and it seems like money is abundant.
Yeah.
That's not scarce these days.
It doesn't help cool things down.
Doesn't help cool things down, but the Fed, they can increase their interest rates to kind of help cool things down. But if they do, it'll be very, very slow, steady interest rate increases, and it won't be anything abrupt for sure.
So this has been good for you.
What's been good is consumer confidence. When people are confident in the market, they're more prone to pull the trigger and not be on the fence.
More deal flow.
Yep. More deal flow, more confident, less second guessing.
It's competitive in real estate. How do you guys deal with competition?
Very competitive in real estate. I think that they say after 5 years, the attrition rate's about 90%.
Really?
So 10 realtors in, and there'll be only one man standing after 5 years, which seems high, but there's always a new batch of realtors always coming in, especially with the market we're seeing now.
Yeah.
They're just seeing a good opportunity, and they think it's going to be easy, and then they decide to get their license. And the barriers to entry to become a realtor are pretty low.
Yeah.
6 months, pretty much home, like do it at home studies.
So how do you guys separate yourselves?
I don't know how I separate myself. I just kind of focus on the fundamentals of just being a good advisor and providing good counsel and following a process, and then business comes, right? You just try to look out for their best interests, and people really feel that pretty quick.
If you're the trustworthy kind of guy everyone will go to, then
If people trust you with probably one of the biggest plays of their life, then the word gets out.
have you seen guys kind of go the other way and ruin that relationship?
I've seen realtors that are transactional,
Yeah.
where they just see it as a one-time thing, right? And I find those realtors, they don't build their business on referral.
Right.
And when you build your business on referral, you really want to bring your A game to make sure they have an exceptional experience. So then they come back to you when they need to buy or sell again.
So you guys advertise at all now?
I do minimal advertising, mostly just keeping in touch with my database. That's it. Keep it pretty simple, but just fortunate enough to do a good job. And the database grows year over year slowly. And yeah, again, just follow the slow and steady wins the race.
How big's your portfolio? Do you have?
Rentals?
Yeah, like
I have a very small portfolio in the grand scheme of things, but I think it probably like 6 rentals.
okay.
6 rentals and maybe 12 doors. So that's not, in the grand scheme of things, that's a very small rental portfolio, right? But it's a start, and I realized that I don't really want to grow that much bigger.
Really?
Because rentals is work.
It's hard.
It's just work, like just dealing with tenants, and I choose to self-manage my rentals.
Yeah.
So then, you pick up one, you just got another batch of tenants that you got to manage. And now mortgage qualification is a lot harder. So that's like once you kind of get to like 6 properties, it's mortgage qualification becomes more challenging.
Right. Have you ever looked outside of real estate to do other entrepreneurial ventures?
Not really. No. I think just kind of stick with real estate in terms of construction and development. So I like to participate in a couple infill projects per year. I try to do maybe one per year. Reorganize my rental portfolio to kind of get rid of the dogs, and then keep the best performing ones and try to get some better ones that have better cash flow. And Airbnbs have always been good, high revenues, a little bit more work, but it usually comes in with higher revenue as well.
Are those infills profitable? They're everywhere these days.
Margins are skinny. Yeah, it's super competitive. Land prices have been surging for the cost of the land.
Yeah.
It's harder to get a quality lot, and cost of construction as a ballpark has increased by like 20% compared to last year. So margins are very, very skinny. So I try to find like a good one to participate in. But they're harder to find. And those are a lot of work too.
So what's the best type of real estate deal that you could find? Like what's your go-to, or if you had your pick? Is it an infill? Is it a residential build?
I think it's a brand new rental property. So freshly constructed with a suite in a good area. I find those ones are, because it's brand new, has the lowest amount of maintenance. If it's in a good area, you'll find great tenants because it's brand new in a good area.
Yeah.
And then typically your rents are higher than average.
With a suite.
You got to have the suite.
Really?
Yeah, you got to have the suite, yeah. A little bit more maintenance to maintain, but also it just more cash flow.
Do you have any mentors that you kind of look towards?
I call him probably like Lee, my kind of official mentor. But I always try to associate myself with people that are more successful than me.
Yeah.
And then they're happy to help. They're happy to kind of answer any questions.
Who's the main real estate guys in Calgary?
There's a couple big names in Calgary for sure. Sam Collius.
Okay.
That's the owner of Boardwalk Properties.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably the most notable one. But right now it's been popular to build purpose-built rentals where you're building multifamily and you're building it. You find renters and then you refinance all the money back out.
Yeah,
and then you have a brand new rental property. You have a brand new rental property where you could have got a lot of your initial capital back out.
Right.
And the interest rates are low right now, so
yes,
they could be quite profitable doing that.
What do you tell somebody right now who's worried that interest rates might go up soon and that the market's on the edge of collapsing? You need somewhere to live?
I find I'm not concerned about interest rates rising. because I know that when they do, it's going to be a very small percentage at a time. So it's going to work. So they're not going to shock the market and increase their rates from 2.5% to 5% overnight. So people are going to acclimatize to the general increase in interest rates. Also, with the mortgage stress test, they kind of factored in that, can you afford this house at a 5% interest rate or whatever the benchmark interest rate is. So I'm not really too concerned about that. Market crashing, honestly, this city's economy changes like a light switch. So I always believe in encouraging clients to live below their means, making sure that it's affordable, that if things do change, that you can still afford it, and also making sure that the house has longevity. So, I try not to kind of encourage clients to buy a 5-year home, like aim for at least a 10-year home.
For sure.
Because I find that after 5 years, you just don't know what's going to happen in the market. The hope is the longer you hold it, that it'll generally increase with inflation. And then it'll offset the real estate commissions, which can take a big dent out of profit.
Inflation's good for real estate.
Inflation's good for real estate, and it's a storage of value too. So when money's being printed, I would say real estate is a good storage of value.
I read a Buffett quote on that the other day. Coincidentally, real estate's great for inflation.
I think just kind of think of anything that's kind of scarce and try to park your money there right now. I find that you don't want to be too liquid, the rising inflation. And then also the markets are pretty active, where we're seeing, I think, like 20 to 25% year-to-date returns on the market.
Index, basic index fund.
Basic index fund, yeah. When houses have increased by 10%, you can put it into an index fund, and it's increased by 20%, 25% this year. So, yeah.
What's your favorite neighborhood in Calgary?
I think I'm biased. I love Inglewood,
You've seen everything.
I love Inglewood. Now that I live here, I'm just really happy with the lifestyle here, with the easy, quick commute times to pretty much anywhere. The walking, the kind of the village atmosphere of walking to your grocery store, your doctor, your bank, your post office. Then you got the river park, the river walkway, which is fantastic. Biased from Inglewood for sure.
If you were a billionaire, where would you buy?
If I was a billionaire worldwide?
Sure.
I think you'd be having a couple properties, but I think I'm gravitated toward Asia. Asia, I think it just seems like there's a lot of adventure there, a lot of excitement, and just I think I'd like the vibrancy, the beaches, and
What about Calgary? Where would you buy if you're a billionaire? You've seen a lot of properties.
I think you just kind of go to those estate communities such as like Mount Royal, Britannia on the Ridge, Bel Air.
Very interesting.
I think Bel Air and Britannia probably. And try to get a big quarter-acre lot, something like that. Something with incredible views.
You're not even that old. When you were younger, was it tough getting going and getting people to listen to you, and especially in real estate? You're like
37.
Yeah.
I think what I did was I kept my mouth shut, and I didn't talk about what I was up to, and then I let the results speak for themselves if it ever came out. And then, so when the results came out, I already came across as credible. So then if I was ever looking for investment money, or if someone was talking to me about real estate, I kind of demonstrated experience. Those real estate deals, I was just doing it with my JV partner, mentor. So I didn't really need to need to convince a lot of people, right? But then once you have a couple doors, you show maybe your friends and stuff like that this is your rental property, and you tell them what you did to it, and you do a couple of them, you kind of get enough experience to kind of talk credibly.
Right.
I find it now, in terms of getting credibility, it's dealing with just certain individuals that are looking for a higher end home.
Right.
And those guys can be hard to build their trust. But I think I've demonstrated enough experience and credibility when I meet them that the delivery shows that I know what I'm doing.
You want to get into higher end real estate, I would imagine that's kind of the goal.
Better dollar per hour, I'd say.
Yeah.
It has its different challenges, but I think it just better dollar per hour for sure.
If you can build that brand around the high-end real estate.
If you build that brand around high-end real estate, but also if you kind of network around high net worth individuals, I think that's kind of the secret.
Right.
Because you do a good job selling to someone else, like a physician or a business owner, they just tell their friends.
On a side note, that's how we end up with Steve Koss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he just, I connected with him probably 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Even longer, but before I had my realtor's license, and I was just walking Killarney, and then I think he was mowing his lawn or something, and then I got his number, and then
here we are.
And then here we are.
Yeah.
And it's Steve Cost has actually always been good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sent me some really good referrals, and I'm amazed that I've earned his trust because he owns some good piece of dirt, and he has a lot of people trying to buy it from him. And I'm amazed that like 6 years ago, when I got his number, he chose to keep in touch, which is kind of unreal.
You met a lot of entrepreneurs, and who's the most successful entrepreneur you know?
I think they're just kind of other real estate investors or people in the industry. One of my good friends, he owns like a flooring company,
Okay.
Divine Flooring. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
Divine Flooring, but they have like strong market share for installing hardwood floors in new homes. And I just see him as a man of good character. He works so hard, good family man. And I just see that he just leads by example, lets the results speak for themselves, and he just keeps it pretty humble.
Interesting.
But in terms of an entrepreneur who I talk on a regular basis, it'd probably be Carlos. Yeah. And he also comes from an immigration background too.
Do you think it's easier to succeed in boring businesses that maybe some people would overlook instead of trying to go into where everyone goes, like real estate or tech? Or
his business is extremely competitive, but it's just like only until you're in the industry that you see it. But I think in the end, it's just kind of try to focus on something that you're passionate about or that you have that you're interested in, because you're going to have some speed bumps and setbacks along the way. And I think only your passion will help you get through that.
it seems like every business is competitive.
It's in this world, I find, unless you're kind of like an early adopter, maybe NFT.
Yes.
Maybe the NFT space, it's not as competitive because it's just so fresh. But you get to any industry where you see that there's decent margins, wait a couple of years and there'll be more players coming in that will drive down the margin for sure. Yeah. It's just, I think it's like anything.
Execution, passion.
Mm-hmm. And you just got to focus on doing it right, do it better than the other guy, maybe charge higher margins, decrease your expenses.
You can innovate within an industry too that's old.
Yeah, definitely. Not a lot of innovation, I think, for being a realtor. I think for me, I try to focus on the fundamentals, but there is people innovating and they're doing well with it. But I don't want to try to reinvent the wheel, and things have been working out.
If you were to give advice on what not to do in real estate in terms of maybe starting a career in the business, what would you say?
As a realtor or a real estate investor?
Both.
I think as a real estate investor, be careful who you get in bed with. Be careful who you do business with. Because I find if you work with people that are of extreme integrity and they're hardworking, then when there's a problem, then it's a genuine problem. But if you get into business with the wrong people, then suddenly things that shouldn't have been an issue is suddenly an issue. And it can take up a lot of time and energy to kind of resolve things. So I think be careful who you do business with for sure as a real estate investor. And as a realtor, what would I not do? Well, what I would tell them, it's overspend. Yeah. Because I think as a realtor, many people think it's lucrative to be a realtor. What's even more lucrative than being a realtor is having a realtor as a client. Because suddenly you're getting hit up for everything. New fancy websites, new special photography, different ways to market. And if you can watch your costs and then not try to find the next best thing, I think it could be a distraction. So I think just avoid the squirrel, like the next best thing that will distract you from the task at hand.
Ignoring noise.
Yeah. Squirrel, new idea, something that can kind of like just throw you off your game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because before the kids, I had like so much piss and vinegar to show houses and work. But now with kids, like I actually had to hire a coach to kind of help me prioritize my family. Yeah, just to kind of help me kind of understand what my actual priorities are.
How much were you working?
I'd say probably like 70 hours a week is pretty easy. 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yes.
Yeah, and then like, because I would flow over 5 p.m. and then Sundays I would kind of do a half day. But a half day is like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Like that's a half day.
It bleeds over into, yeah.
So like it's easy to kind of overwork as a realtor. And many people, I know a lot of realtors that still do that. And it takes time and a little bit of coaching to first work on your limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. And then second is implement scalable systems.
For sure. Mm-hmm. The E-Myth, have you ever read that one?
I read part of it actually. I should read it a little bit more. I'm more of a audiobook guy. Like I think today, like my attention span is like so bad. So
I usually ask what people are reading. What are you reading these days?
Morning Brew. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I follow them all the time.
I read it religiously.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I read.
That's your reading.
Yeah, Quora. I read Quora a lot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But Morning Brew is like I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan. That's where I get all my source of news and current events,
Yeah.
and you get
It's amazing. The Sheba story. That's where I read about that too.
That's where I got that one too. About the $1.2 billion play, like 400 days. Yeah. Or like how the index funds have been increased by 20 to 25%.
Yeah.
I got that from the Morning Brew.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can't say enough good things about that thing. Yeah.
Well, that's a great conversation. Thank you.
Awesome, man. I hope this was good, and I'll listen to it, and I'll send it to some buddies.
Appreciate it. Hey, thanks for listening, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you heard, check out rosebros.ca, where we will have upcoming shows. Until next time, happy coffee drinking.